Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1 and KitFox. In this video we have an update on beta for Adventure Mode and also a side little update about the beta for Adventure Mode. So, for those of you who've missed it up until now, Adventure Mode is available in the beta branch. You can go play it currently if you so choose. Keep in mind it is an unfinished beta with features that are lacking and it's not completed yet. However, this is an update of more portions being complete. On the screen right now you can see instructions on how to get into the beta and play, and according to my research, Adventure Mode is no longer just in the public beta branch, it is also in the experimental branch. So if you're one of those stalwarts who was a version behind for the past 6 months because you've been sitting on the experimental branch, it's now up to date as well. So congratulations, you finally caught up. Let's dive in. So KitFox writes, "Hey Jurists, we're back with another Adventure Mode beta patch, with the biggest addition being the bartering menus. Tarn has also gone in and cleaned up the towns so that stuff is properly displayed on tables instead of being all over the floor. This has a side effect, which I'll dive into in a second." So this is their attached screenshot. This is the bartering screen. Now this screen leaves some things to be desired. The bartering system in Adventure Mode is much more like an actual bartering system instead of just giving you prices. In Fortress Mode, you select a bunch of items, and then it gives you the value of them, assuming you have a broker set up, and then you select what you would like to buy. It tells you approximately whether or not they'll say yes or no. If it's yellow, there's a chance they'll say yes. If it's green, they'll say yes. If it's not either of those colors, then they get mad at you and won't trade. Adventure Mode trading, which I'll try and make a tutorial for at some point, is much more trial and error than that. While coins can be used to trade, they're completely worthless if you're in the wrong civilization. So if you're going to go steal a bunch of coins from some unsuspecting travelers and then try and use those to purchase an item at a local trade shop, they might not even accept it. So your better bet is to just simply offer items until you get a trade that they accept. I've tried to do a little bit of messing around with it, and I don't know if you can make the actual values of your items appear next to the items. I've never managed to do it, even with having a pretty damn good appraisal skill as my adventurer. So it's either a UI oversight or just not a feature in the game right now. So it becomes very much trial and error. Granted, I don't think it's possible for you to actually annoy them to the point where they stop trading you with you in this screen, unlike in Fortress Mode, where if you click the button too many times, I'll just be like, bah, to hell with it and leave. So there is that as a benefit. I personally would really like a little bit of extra text up in the top level of the screen where it would tell you if you need to offer more or offer less, and give me a little bit more information on how much more I need to offer. So far, I've used the system to successfully trade my crappy, worn-out socks and shoes for less crappy, less worn-out socks and shoes from other people in a village. I've also managed to use it to purchase food, and as well as use it to purchase a night's rest in a tavern. Now, the problem with purchasing a night's rest in the tavern is the tavern keeper doesn't seem to actually take your money, and then also I wasn't able to successfully give the tavern keeper money, or anything for that matter. He just wouldn't take it. He would ask if I was giving him a gift. So there's still some oddities for shopkeepers. However, I do think that the system is a nice piece of menu. It just needs a little bit of refining. Moving on to the actual patch notes here, we have, it's of course, beta 51.01, beta 14, so this is the 14th variant of it. The first one I had access to was the 7th, so the vast majority of the major crashes that I was running into initially have all been fixed at this point, so I do have to say that that is a very good, stable place for it to be right now. However, it is still lacking in features, but that is what they are working on. So they have added the barter and trade screen and the demand screen in the conversation menu. I should also note about the demand screen. This does mean that you can now demand somebody gives you their sword if you have good intimidation skills. Mid-combat, they might just give you their sword, and that's kind of hilarious. Sites without tables in their stockpile get emergency tables for their shops now. So what this means is during World Gen, the game has, air quotes, production. During production in World Gen, items are produced and distributed to locations. New locations don't always get those items distributed to them, and some locations have issues like, let's just say, wars or necromancer towers, which disrupt those trade routes during World Gen, and then they don't get furniture distributed. This would lead to a lot of empty houses and places with just nothing in them. Of course, this may still happen in abandoned areas, but for areas that have populations in them, they just get tables now. So if you walk into a house in a town in adventure mode, you will see furniture, guaranteed, instead of just people sleeping on dirt floors, which is a really nice little change. And then this change, which had some unintended outcomes, which is the printed tabletop items on tables and stopped many other building items from printing on top of creatures. This is important because now your graves in Fortress mode are guaranteed to no longer, hopefully, have skeletons on top of them, even though they're technically inside of them. I noticed this while playing Fort mode yesterday. As well as also, dwarves now put their food on tables, and you can see it on top of the tables instead of having to click the tables and see the invisible sprite. So it's just more sprites appearing and more interactions being visible, which I think is really cool. This also has worked for books in my brief experience of staring at my one little library with one book in it, so things appearing on book tables are A+ from me. The next thing here is sound off init option should work in adventure mode now. This is for old school people who used to edit the game files to change the settings, to turn sound on and off and such, so basically reactivating an old setting. Adventurers are no longer unaware of their own name. I don't actually know what this does. I'm assuming it's something to do with the conversation menu. If anybody has any explainers on what this means, could you leave that down in the comments section, along with this Linux crash, which I'll get to in a second. Adventurers should no longer be sprinting and walking forever when retired into a fort, which makes me really sad because I had an undead adventurer who was sprinting and he just moved at full clip 24/7 and it was just hysterical. I do understand why this is patched because it is a pretty egregious bug, but man, that was a fun afternoon. The next one is fixes Linux crash on the trainer menu again. If anybody who uses Linux could elaborate on that one, that'd be great. I don't use Linux, so I have no idea what that crash even was. And then the next thing is it makes liquids and powders not spill out of containers on Unretire. So this one is huge. So for many of you, a lot of people refuse to retire and unretire forts. And the reason for this is when you retire a fort, it can disrupt portions of your fortress. It can change water tables and liquid levels, meaning volcanoes can overflow, lakes can flood, rivers can overflow, waterfalls can cause calamities, and all of that lovely jazz. Now, the issue with unretiring a fortress, aside from the liquids being crazy, is your barrels and bags all immediately spill out. So the dwarves have to go reproduce all of your alcohol and reproduce all of your sand, all of your any kind of gathered powders like flour that end up in bags. It also can sometimes destroy the containers alongside of them. So this is a rather annoying outcome when you make a new fortress and then retire it after a couple of years and then reclaim it and then immediately have to repair a whole bunch of things. I'm actually going to be retiring and unretiring my main fortress Fire Orb today, so I'll be seeing exactly how much this has actually changed and how much better this system is. Fingers crossed it's as good as it sounds because, man, that would be real nice to not have to worry about, things just pouring everywhere. That sounds great. All in all, this is solid progress. Of course, that's what it is, progress. Even after this patch, in many ways, adventure mode isn't really ready for public consumption. However, this is another system that you can play around with. Goblins are still perfectly playable because they don't need to eat or drink, and as long as you're playing in the summertime, scrounging for food from random fruits and vegetables that grow in the wild is perfectly doable. It's just a little bit clunky still because you can't butcher animals, which is your guaranteed food source for all creatures in the winter. And now it's actually a little bit harder in some ways to get food, although there's still no repercussions for just walking into somebody's house and just taking food from them. So it's not what I would describe as punishment for stealing because all that really happens still is you can't sleep in towns because guards don't come and kill you, but it is absolutely a step in that direction. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you would like to see some adventure mode, I should be streaming some today, or at the very least playing some Fortress mode by the time you tune in. If you watch this today, I upload it. And if you would like to see more Dwarf Fortress content, you can find that over on this YouTube channel. And if you would like to see my face while I play video games on the internet, I stream on this YouTube channel as well as twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope to see you in the next one.